So one of the things that we've spent some time with, we didn't record that session, but one of the original things we did is we watched a video together. It was a keynote address at the Digital Summit in Nashville, which was by a guy named John Ushai. And John laid out this copy with taste strategy that he uses. And it's really how him as a standalone person, him by himself, becomes a total content generating machine. And the reason that we're talking about this today, and the reason that I keep mentioning it, is because our entire business model at Source, with the Source sites on the editorial side, is predicated on this idea that our cost to create 1,000 page views, which is we call eCPM, or editorial cost per thousand, has to be lower than the revenue we generate from that same 1,000 page views. And we call that revenue per 1,000 page views. And so we can always, in order to achieve that, we need to be constantly publishing more, and we need to be publishing more efficiently. We need to get more bang for the buck on every minute that everybody is out there creating content. And when we think about it from the standpoint of clients, the more content we can generate in the same amount of time for clients, and if we can do something once and get a bunch more content out of it, then these are good ways to get the eyeballs that we're trying to get, and why content creation is an important part of what we're doing for clients. So let's just back up a little bit and remind everybody what this copy with taste idea is. We always talk about content as needing to be original, interesting, and engaging. Why? Because whenever you add new content to the internet, social media platform, let's just use Facebook and Google as examples because they're the largest. As soon as you add any content to the internet, or to to Facebook, or fill in your favorite Instagram, fill in your favorite TikTok, fill in your favorite social media platform, there's an analysis that's happening in a fraction of a second, where the first hurdle your content faces is originality. And what Facebook or Google is immediately doing is comparing to everything else that exists and saying, have I seen this before? And if the answer is yes, I've seen it before, and this doesn't add anything new, then they're pretty much going to ignore it immediately from then on. If the answer is, yeah, I've never seen anything like this before, or this builds upon something that I've seen before, and it is sufficiently original or completely original, now you've gotten their interest. Haven't seen this before. Now, then they go on to the next step, which is do people find this interesting? And when you consider interesting, Google and Facebook will consider all sorts of things, like how many people are looking at it, how long are they looking at it, are they engaging with it, are they liking it, sharing it, are they spending a fair bit of time with it, are they scrolling through it, all these different things. And if your audience is finding your content interesting and engaging, what they will then do is take your content and organically move it to a slightly wider group of people who look like those people. And they'll say, do these people find it interesting and engaging? And so on and so on and so on. And that is the nature of how things, quote unquote, go viral. And so this strategy that's been put forth by John, who worked at YouTube and Instagram, he kind of presents himself as one of the few people who've worked at both companies and yada, yada, yada. but he's a very bright person. And I don't think the fact that he worked at YouTube and Instagram has a whole lot to do with it. I think he's just very intuitive about how to create great content that gets a big audience. And he delineates between this idea of copy and paste, which is where you're basically just taking something and reusing it, and copy with taste, where your creativity builds on someone else's creativity. You're blending maybe from multiple sources. You're elevating that material with the prior work, and you're giving credit where credit is due. And you're taking what it does is it takes something that isn't inherently original, and it makes it original enough by building on it, by adding to it. Okay. And he talks about the 3 R's of copy with taste: research, remix, and repackage. So the research part, your audience is your focus group. We use our audience as a focus group every day. We look through analytics to see what articles are they reading, what articles are they not reading. And we are learning all the time. And we do this the same for clients. We develop a schedule of article topics we want to publish. We publish them and we look and say, did anybody read it? And if nobody read it, we're like, well, that didn't work well. If a lot of people read it, we go, well, that worked great. Let's do more like that. And let's do less like the things that people don't seem interested in. And in general, what you and people around you are reading, watching can be very indicative of what will be popular that you can do. So think about all the time. Be aware of what's going on in your social sphere. What are your friends, neighbors, family members talking about locally or anywhere in the world? What are they talking about in the real world? Like if you're hanging out and you're doing stuff, what are they talking about in the meta world? If they're on social media, if you're lucky enough to have one of these relatives who forward you all sorts of things in email, or friends, or text you things. Friends and family can be a really helpful source, but also things like YouTube, your social feeds, searches, Google Trends, which helps you to know what searches are popular on Google at any given moment. John likes to rely on things like Reddit, BuzzFeed, and other news, sports, lifestyle brands online because he feels that that these are that what's popular there is indicative of what's likely to be popular in the near future. And I tend to agree. And his argument is that you should try every plausible idea you come up with and don't overthink it on the front end. You want to get things out there. You want to get content out there. You want to get a sample size, and then you want to see what gets traction, and then let that draw your attention to the next steps in the process. So research is about trying things. It's about putting things out there and seeing what's out there, putting your version of it out there, and seeing what gets traction. What people around you are talking and thinking about is probably what they're willing to read if you put it out there. And so you want to find tastemakers. You want to find great aggregators. Frankly, you want to find great content makers. You want to find people who are content machines. You want to follow them. You want to check them regularly. And if you develop a good source of referrals, they'll do a lot of this research step for you. And this content that runs the gauntlet of popularity in recommendation engines, whether it's popular content sites, news apps, weather.com, the homepage on YouTube has sort of like trending videos and different things. Your Facebook home feed is showing you things not because just randomly, because it's reasonably certain you're going to find them interesting. And it learns from the things that you skip over, and it learns from the things that you do engage. And so these sort of feeds, if you will, are pre-vetted content. They tell us what people are engaging with, what they're finding interesting and engaging, and not just you, but people like you. And birds of a feather flock together. So we, especially if you're thinking editorial team here, what's interesting in the social sphere in and around our communities is what's likely to be popular on our websites. And if you just think about it, the stuff that's historically really popular on source sites and that we're finding to be true as we've expanded from 2 counties to 9 is real estate, obituaries, crime, anything where a new business is opening or a business is closing. A lot of these kinds of things have become very universal, and they're go-tos for us. And for clients, having a similar approach of trying different things and learning. Now, part of research for a client, and I don't have it listed here, but part of research for a client is definitely keyword research. For clients that we're doing SEO work, we want to build content that's going to relate back to those keywords and key phrases that are most popular related to what our clients do. And for a lot of those kind of things, specialty blogs. So if we're talking about real estate, if we're talking about home design, home services, companies like Zillow and Houzz spend tons and tons and tons of money building blogs out and building content. And we can learn from their efforts to determine what people will read, what people want to see. And we can use that and build on it using this copy with taste idea to really save us a lot of time and energy and to make what we choose to. Those are good indicators that if we do something similar, if we build on that, if we use these techniques to copy with taste, that we can expect to be equally successful, if not more. So once we've done our research, Remix becomes the next big tool in the copy with taste strategy. And there's 2 primary ways that John recommends remixing things. The first is what he calls reacting. You take something that's out there, you elevate it, you add new information to it, you share credit with where you came with what you're building on top of, and then you blend it into how you add value. You blend it into something new, something better. And the other is re-explaining. Sometimes you find something and you're like, our audience would love to know more about this, but it gives us an opportunity to share expertise or share other information that isn't talked about in this article or this post. And it gives us the opportunity to educate or break down a complicated idea and maybe even relate it to something more local. So, for example, I call these local nationals. When an issue is big in the national, a great example of this in the last week, 10 days has been the shortage of baby formula. You can take a concept like a shortage of baby formula that, pretty much every news outlet is talking about. And you can use the information from that to build on it with relating it to what's happening. What is the availability here in our local market? So for example, you can take the national story, use it as a basis, and then you can go to Publix or Kroger and you can take a local photo of an empty baby formula shelf, or you could call a grocery store or a Walgreens and say, are you experiencing these same shortages here locally? And you can take that information and you can build on And so re-explaining becomes a really great way to potentially remix. And when you're in doubt, there's these 3 C's, and this will all be, the slides and everything will be readily available to you, but clear, confident, and concise. And John talks about use of language, and he definitely advises some specific ways that you write everything. And he talks a lot about writing at an 8th grade level. We talk about that in previous trainings around the readability score when in Yoast when you're search optimizing something. So I won't go into that in as much depth as John does, but because we've already covered it in our own way. But headline, image, these are all really important and relates back. I'm building on some of our prior training sessions in the sense that these headline, the headline and how you present this locally has a huge impact on what happens and how popular and how read your piece will be. And that was the topic, it was our topic 2 months ago. I won't reiterate it here, but putting the proper care into things like search engine optimization, selecting a headline, selecting a featured image, these all still really apply even when you're doing copy with taste, maybe especially when you're doing copy with taste. And the third aspect is this remix. When you find something that gets traction, you remix it. You start with quantity to get a large enough sample size. If I publish 5 things today, I'm looking to see which one has the most traction. And then I'm using that to kind of build my plan in coming days. I'm going to do more like that. I'm going to go for quantity. I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to focus on that topic, and I'm going to kind of milk it for all I can get out of it in terms of page views. Evergreen is generally better than perishable over the long run because, and we talked about this last month, evergreen content is going to get you page views today, tomorrow, a year from now, and can overall be really ideal. And we want to create evergreen content whenever we can. It's not always practical. The example I just gave of the baby formula thing, highly perishable. They're going to solve that problem within a couple of weeks, and it'll go away. But in the meantime, you have a lot of people who are concerned about whether or not they're going to have enough baby formula, right? And so don't ignore perishable things just because they're perishable. They can be really quick home runs. We evaluate almost every article we write in terms of, is it a bunt, a single, a double, a triple, a home run, or a grand slam? Perishable, almost always grand slams are highly perishable. They get a ton of content, but then they're done. So don't ignore perishable because perishable is just about the only way to hit a grand slam. And when you repackage, once you tap a gusher, oil guys will tell you, you keep pumping that well until it's dry. So you attack this topic in as many other ways as you can. You do more articles on this topic. You package perhaps other articles we've recently done on this topic. We call this, in case you missed it, we do this a lot. Andrea and Michael use this very commonly. We can do this for clients though. When you over time you build up a quantity of articles that you've done, you can do one that's our latest trends in kitchen design, and all it is an aggregation, a listicle, if you will, of previous articles we've written that we can package together and put a new angle on it. You can do videos, you can do interviews, and you can do things that take a little more time. Last month we talked about having like A articles, B articles, and C articles. You start with a bunch of C's and you decide, okay, this qualifies, this makes it graduates to B, and it might graduate all the way to A. But videos, interviews, these take more time. Why invest time in making videos and interviews unless it's proven to be a really popular C article? Because B is really what you're getting into when you start thinking videos, interviews. Let this drive where you choose to spend more time. And copyright still matters. Images and videos that you're copying with taste still need permission to use. Now, you can overcome this in certain situations. If you're building, for example, on a social post, we have the ability to embed that social post in our WordPress post. And we can do that. It's called fair use. So we don't have to have permission to embed any single social post in a WordPress post, okay? But don't assume that just because you found that you're copying with taste and you're going to build on and you're giving credit to, don't assume that just because you're giving credit to the original source that you have free reign to reuse their images or videos. Now, you can embed those. Embedding is different than literally copying and pasting, save that photo over here and then reuse it over here. So don't assume, and if you ever have any questions, concerns about copyright, make sure you double check with Andrea, Michael, me, anybody. And this is kind of a quick overview of your advancing your copy with taste skills. Research, remix, repackage. Just remember this. And this is the kind of thing you can print out and just put it literally in front of you as you're going about your day. Research, get sources together and check them on a regular basis. Remix. Think about how you can react to things, how you can re-explain things, how you can build on them so that you justify. It's not a copy and paste. It's a copy with taste. That's what's the key difference, is you're adding value over the top of that content. And then take the things that get traction when you remix them and then start to repackage them. Same idea. Start putting more content out there and aggregating existing content in new and different ways. Because if people liked it in one format, they probably like it in another format. They probably read it, other people will probably come at it from different angles. A lot of times with headlines and images, I've noticed, and maybe you've seen the same thing, is if you're in Netflix and you're on the homepage in Netflix and it's recommending things to you, you might notice that it recommends the same program or movie or show to you, whatever, the same content. It recommends it to you 3 or 4 or 5 times, all in the same homepage, but with different images, because Netflix is figuring out which image draws the most people to watch. Okay? Same thing is what we're doing here. You might say, Steve, I don't have a high comfort level with copy with taste because it feels too much like copy and paste. And I want to do original things. I want to do my ideas. Well, the very nature of creativity and almost anything you see is consciously or unconsciously built upon other sources. Okay? And what's unique and different about copy with taste is that the ones that most obviously influenced you are fully disclosed in here. So everything here is above board. You're saying, we saw this social post, this article, this whatever. NBC News is reporting that, but Channel 4 is reporting this. And then we're building on it. We're adding value. We're putting something new in there. And if you're deliberate about filling your memory bank with ideas, about building your research sources, you will be successful, because you never know when those things, you're going to remember that. I probably am pretty annoying to Andrea and Michael, and occasionally to Megan, Lainey, whoever, because I will forward as I'm reading different articles and things. I'll be like, oh, this would be an awesome thing that we could write about for this client, or hey, this would make a great story idea. And so I'm constantly forwarding things. And even if it's not something you're going to build with, then that's okay. You can pass it along to someone who may find it more useful. I've taken to forwarding a lot of sports ideas as I read things. I've taken to forwarding a lot of sports ideas to Austin. And this is an example. We're gonna quickly go through 5 real life examples of how we could copy with taste. This is an article that's on A to Z Sports right now. Why ESPN thinks Titans running back Derrick Henry will have a down season in 2022. Well, they're already copying with taste. A to Z is already doing this. ESPN made a statement in some part of their content, and they said, Derrick Henry is going to have a down year. They made a prediction. And all the A to Z guys are doing here is reacting to, and they're copying with taste. They're reacting to what ESPN said, a national local, right? They're taking what the national pundits say, and they're building on it locally. And in this case, they're ultimately disagreeing in this content, okay? Now, we have the opportunity to build another layer to say something like local sports writers, local sports talk personalities don't agree with ESPN that Derrick Henry will have a down season this year. Okay? So this is one way we can build on this. And again, we aren't even taking a position in here. All we're doing is pointing out that the local guys don't agree with the national guys. You might say, well, duh, why would the local guys, want to wish that Derrick Henry has a bad season? But you get the point. These opportunities are everywhere. And if we're just looking and we hone our skills to figure out where we can add value, then we can fill our sites and we can fill our clients' sites with content that will really help us to understand what people want to read. This is a Facebook group called Tennessee Gardeners. People on our source sites love photos. And here's a ton of photos. And all we need is to message this person and say, hey, could I incorporate this photo into an article I'm doing about spring flower beds? Hey, could I include this photo or some of your photos in an article I'm doing about shade, what to do in shady spots in your yard? Hey, could I include this photo? So you follow me here. These Facebook groups, there are Facebook groups where the whole point is that people are posting their photos and sharing information. These people, their whole mission in life is because they want to share something they love. And so do you think they're inclined to talk to you about it and allow you the ability to share? Absolutely. Zillow is a company, a real estate website known for various things. But one of the things that they invest a lot of time and money in to draw people into their site is their blog called Zillow Porchlight. And so here's some of their more, you'll notice some of this goes back to 2020. These are, and you can kind of move this blog however you want, but this is choosing some pretty popular things to show me. And you can see, talk about evergreen. Some of this is pretty old, but they keep adding to it. And seasonally, how to carve the best pumpkin on the block. Do you think we could use that and build on that? Duh. Do it together. 5 home projects for you and your household helpers. We're going into a summertime where kids are off school. This is an easy one to build in, like how kids can get involved in home projects over the summer, right? Here's another Facebook group that is specific to one of the communities we serve. If you grew up in Franklin, TN, Michael works with this group. In fact, here's a posting of an obituary that is from our site in this group. But look at this. Here's like historical photos of the Williamson County Courthouse over the years. Could we build something with this? Duh. Here's an old ad, and people tend to do this. They have these old newspapers sitting around and clippings that they have. These kinds, look at this. Here's a picture of a guy, and these people remember him. And so they will tell you the whole story. And the photo is from Mark Lucas Photography Archives. It's a matter of asking Mark Lucas, hey, could we have permission? But it's a social post. We don't even need permission. We can embed the social post and therefore have this photo in our article. It's fair use. YouTube. Here's my YouTube homepage. Actually, it's Source Local Media's YouTube homepage. And so, like, how to become 37.78 times better at anything, as just like a way to kind of build on, like in January when everybody starts thinking about self-improvement and getting off to a great start at the beginning of the year. Here's a video. Now, you want to vet some of these things and make sure that you're not copying with taste something that you would not want to build on, that doesn't deserve to be built on. I accidentally forwarded an article to Tamar not too long ago and said, hey, check this out. This is a copy with taste opportunity. But really the article was clickbait, and I didn't read the article. I just saw it and I forwarded it. And the article actually had a link to a bunch of Amazon things for people to buy socks. And we sell socks at Pretty in Pink, so we don't want to use that as a copy with taste opportunity. But it was worth pursuing, worth looking into. And as you move through, this is just one example of different things. So like, I saw one more and I can't remember. 10 things you need to know before getting a solar PV something. So let's say we wanted to do an article about how, about which Middle Tennessee neighborhoods are pro solar and which ones aren't, right? So you could build on this. There's all these different things. And so you get the idea that when something runs the gauntlet of a homepage like this, YouTube is not going to recommend videos that haven't proven to be fairly popular. And we could go on and on with examples. And just before closing, what I would like to do is offer up. Anybody have some any questions on any of this? Any specific questions that would clarify it for you and that would help you to be able to kind of embrace this copy with taste idea quicker? Just unmute and we can try and do it.
Yeah, this is Michael. What about creating a copy to taste that it's on one topic, but you're kind of referencing like 5 different places of like some sort of crypto news or something from 5 different sources of kind of what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, one of the great ways that I think copy with taste works is with listicles. And like, when you got all these people, especially, and I wish I should have looked it up because I love this. I love what these people do. There's a sports, I'm not going to remember what it was, but I see them all the time in my Google Discover feed on my phone. What they do is what they do is they take tweets and other social posts that athletes and anybody to do with sports and whatever are putting out there, and they basically weave them into entire articles that kind of give an overview of the conversation, the back and forth on certain topics. So you might see like, the sports world reacts to the news about Troy Aikman, and then when you get in there, it's like, it's a series. They're just kind of weaving together a series of social posts about how Troy Aikman is going from Fox to Monday Night Football on ESPN, right? So, and it's Troy, and they embed a post from Troy saying kind of his side of it. They embed like, other pundits who've already, kind of weighed in on the whole thing. And there are a lot of ways, to do local stories this way, because there are, when you do searches and things, and I'm not as up on Twitter as I probably could be, but especially in these Facebook groups, there often is a lot of back and forth, and so you can definitely pull from multiple places and kind of aggregate into something that gives the reader a good overview of the back and forth conversation, the social conversation, if you will, kind of highlights of it, if you will. And notice on this A to Z story, one of the things that they did that I think is a best practice when you're doing these kinds of things is this is what's called a quote block. And so what they did is they pulled out from ESPN, and this is basically ESPN saying, he can't be good this year. And then this is, them pulling out other things, right? And so they're using quote blocks to kind of highlight the conversation and highlight different aspects of the back and forth, and then they're adding their own. Now the thing about A to Z is they're expressing opinions there, which we tend to avoid, on the sources, but we don't have to take a side there. We can just say, hey, there's this back and forth between the national, sports talking heads and the local sports talking heads, and here's the examples of what they're saying. Anybody else? I would strongly encourage you to think about the areas of focus that you have, whether they've been assigned to you, whether there's things you just find interesting. And what I would ask you to consider is how you can aggregate, whether it's just putting together a list of, like organizing your social feeds so that who you follow and where you're going with these, you're going to automatically, be able to see things that might inspire you. I think you can also just think in terms of like sites that you can visit on a regular basis that fill your memory bank, that help you to see things that are interesting. And if it's clients, there are really great. So for example, like with Marty and Nancy Warren, they're part of Sotheby's International. Sotheby's is putting a lot of money into generating blog content at a national level, at a brand level, actually at a global level for Sotheby's brand. And we should be, in theory, we could be copying with taste every single blog post that they put out if it has any ability to be related to our local market. A lot of times, opportunities that I see is like, there are always articles coming out about like the 10 best cities to live in, and the 10 best. We had a real life example of this. I think it was last week sometime, might have been early this week. Andrea and Michael ran a piece that was, I think, Franklin was named one of the 10 most quaint small towns to visit or something like that. And it was a very popular article. And that was effectively a copy with taste. We were saying that Franklin was mentioned in this list, and you know, in communities all over Middle Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, Nashville itself, are constantly getting mentioned on these lists. And so those are great opportunities to build into real estate content. And then, you know, when Zillow comes out and says home prices have risen 20% on average nationally in the first half of the year, well, that's a copy with taste opportunity where we can get the information from our local. In the case of like Williamson, and every county, all of our 9 counties have this, but have their version of this. But you know, the Williamson County Association of Realtors, the Sumner County Association of Realtors, the Wilson County Association of Realtors, they put these stats out on a regular basis. And so you just build on it with some more localized information that's more, you make a national story more meaningful to a person who lives in Mount Juliet by saying, you know, Mount Juliet's outpacing the rest of the country in real estate, in real estate value, in the growth of real estate value. And all you're doing is contrasting what the Wilson County Association of Realtors says, that home prices have gone up 27% in Wilson County so far this year, and you're just contrasting that to Zillow saying that it's 20% nationwide, right? So these are all, and we could do example after example after example all day. Part of it is just training yourself to be thinking about and asking yourself these questions as you're encountering other content. You're like, how could I copy with taste this into something that's really meaningful, either at a county level or at the Middle Tennessee level for all of the sites? And, you know, guys, one of the things that we've noticed on from an editorial standpoint is that now that we have all 9 sites incorporated into the multi-tool, guess what? Our quantity of content automatically went up just because we were able to incorporate more easily stories that we're running on Williamson Source and Rutherford Source. We were able to just put them everywhere now. And we've seen a commensurate, it's not a direct relationship like, you know, if you publish 10 articles, you'll get 100 page views. And if you publish 20 articles, you'll get 200 page views. It's not a linear relationship like that. But there is, you know, something to the idea that the more content that goes into these sites, the more page views we get, right? And there's a quality quantity, sort of mix there that would be difficult to put some math to be able to formulate. But my suspicion is that if we were using copy with taste to create a lot more C-level articles, and we were then watching those C-level articles to identify the things that should become B-level articles and spend more time on it to repackage and to remix more, and we were letting that be our guide as to how we spend our time every week, we would be effectively optimizing the eCPM. We would be getting the maximum page views for the money that we're spending to create content. So, and this works for clients as well. If we're contracted with clients to do, say, 2 articles a month, and we know that an average article gets, it varies by client, but let's just say we know that an average article gets 400 views. Okay, then it stands to reason that if we could use copy with taste, and in the same amount of time and overhead that we right now generate 2 articles a month, we could generate 4, 6, or 8 with the same amount of effort, time, right? Everything we do comes down to time, people's time. And if we could get 8 articles instead of 2, and those 8 articles could be merchandised not only through the website, but through Google My Business and through social media and whatnot, then doesn't it stand to reason that we've widened the top of the funnel for this content, and we have improved the client's ability to communicate and identify actionable leads to grow their business? So, these are this copy with taste strategy really works, and I use it in developing our own Source Local Media blog. In fact, one of the things that I'm doing is Tuesday is Google Marketing is having a huge conference online, and I've already reserved a good bit of Tuesday so that I can, like, literally during the keynote that I'm going to watch, I'm going to be copying with taste right on the fly. And I'm hoping that by being one of the very first people to write about the Google Marketing Conference, that I'm going to draw extra attention back to us and to our corporate site, and appear to have strong authority on these topics, specifically because because there's going to be thousands of people watching this Google Marketing Conference. And so, imagine that. If we start immediately copying with taste and creating content quickly and getting it out there and search optimizing it around Google Marketing Conference and these various topics, don't you think we'll win there? And I think we can do the same, with the source sites, with our editorial approach, with the client sites, with our client approach. And we've used more than enough of our time today on this, but the point is, content is all around you, and this copy with taste really has the potential to improve your output, increase your output of content, and help you to then, in the same amount of time, be able to put, imagine if you could get 20% more articles published in a week. How much would we learn? How many more page views would we get? And that's really the name of the game when you think about whether it's editorial, whether it's client services. The name of the game is we need page views. We need page views in the source sites because that's how we make money. We need page views in client sites because that's how we connect with new customers, which is how we get a return on investment for our clients, which is how they make money and we make money. So this all relates, right? And the more content we can get out there in a quality way, but the more content we can get out there, the more likely we are to achieve our goals as a company. And this copy with taste is, for me anyway, has been a great way to, I've been able to consistently generate 2 to 4 blog posts a week in Source Local Media in 2 hours, adding a lot of original content, just using copy with taste strategies, and incorporating a little information from over here, crediting that source, and then using it to demonstrate our expertise on that topic, the same way that John demonstrated in his own keynote presentation. So I would encourage you to explore these things, encourage you to experiment with them, encourage you to be really embracing this strategy as a company, because the name of the game is output and page views. And if we can use a tool like this, a strategy like this, to even make a 20% increase in page views as a result of just being more time efficient and being able to produce the right kind of content faster, then we will benefit greatly from that. And so I thank you for investing the time to kind of understand this better. I would encourage you to use it and give us feedback if you're running into like challenges, if you have questions, if you're trying to figure out how to be able to embed social posts in a WordPress post. Andrea and Michael know how to do this. The people around you either know how to do it or can help you get to the right answers and get the right help and advice you need. And I really appreciate your willingness to explore new ways of doing what we do, and to really commit to helping us become collectively a real, like a content creating machine. And I look forward to helping you do that. Thanks, and we'll talk again soon.